and be a civil kind of man.
Today, I want to talk to you about voting. I'm voting for Trump. Okay, many of y'all are going to cut the video off right now. But I want to know who, when I think about this, it's a whole bunch that go involved. And I have a few videos that I probably won't get out in time before the election. But on the world stage, who has the most clout? Trump?
Hold up. Yeah. Hold up, hey, woman.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're tackling a big question that goes to the heart of international politics and power. If they became president, meaning Kamala or Trump, forget their personalities, forget all their personal baggage. Who would hold more clout with key world leaders like China's prime minister or Russia's Vladimir Putin or even Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Now, this isn't just a hypothetical, it's about real influence, the kind of influence that shapes international policies and keep America's interests secure. And to understand why this matters, let's dig into the unique ways both Trump and Harris would approach, diplomacy with these major players, and it's definitely a different. Now, in this first section one, Trump's track record of influence, we're going to think about his direct relationships with power players. Let's start with Donald Trump. During his presidency, he didn't just hold traditional meetings with world leaders, he built direct personal relationships with the toughest ones out there. Putin, Xi, Netanyahu, and even the wild man out of North Korea. Now, you name it, whether people agreed with his approach or not, the results spoke for themselves. These leaders respected Trump because he was straightforward and unafraid to be blunt. Now, whether they respected him or not, who cares? Sometimes it's better to be feared than scared, so sometimes it's better to be unpredictable than predictable. And Trump definitely fell into that category. Now, his foreign policy was clear-cut. If it benefits the United States, let's make a deal. And I hope y'all have read the book, The Art of the Deal. It's an incredible book, but it also, when people say, what type of job do you want? They say, well, get a job that you love. And when you love what you do, you won't even be working. Think about it. Trump, does he have to do what he's doing? Does he have to be in all this scorn? Absolutely not. But he really loves this country. And I think about, I'm going to get there, but who do you want sitting at the helm? A prompt reader or someone who can free ball? When you get behind closed, I'm going to get there. Let's talk about Trump at NATO. Let me give you an example. Early in his presidency, Trump attended a NATO summit, and instead of sticking to diplomatic niceties, he openly challenged NATO allies to increase their defense spending. Now, the reaction was shock, but the result, by the end of his term, many NATO members had boosted their contribution, meaning they wasn't getting a free ride no more. Now, so this transitional style worked because it showed other leaders he meant business. Something both Putin and Netanyahu understood. Now, when we talk about Trump and Netanyahu, let's talk about Netanyahu specifically. Under Trump's leadership, the United States-Israel relationship reached new heights. Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He moved the U.S. embassy there, and he brokered the Abraham Accord, which was derailed under Biden's administration on October 7th. But I mean, man, can you imagine? Once that Abraham Accord, once they would have had those peace talks, it would have been amazing. But, the Biden administration messed that up. Now, this historic peace agreement between Israel and several Arab nations, this strengthened bond with Netanyahu and Israel wanted just wasn't just symbolic, it was rooted in concrete actions that advanced Israel's interests while solidifying the US-Israel alliance. Now, for a leader like Netanyahu, who values strong, action-oriented allies, Trump's straightforward style and commitment to Israel's security created a relationship of mutual respect and trust. Now, we're going to go into Kamala's potential influence, because we don't know yet, but Kamala's potential influence, coalition building, and value-driven democracy. Now, let's look at Kamala Harris. If she were president, Harris would bring a very different approach. Her focus would likely be on coalition building, from what she's telling us in her town hall meetings and stuff, but it would be on coalition building with US allies and promoting values like democracy, human rights, and climate action. And there's no doubt these are very important values. Harris would find support, strong support among our traditional allies in Europe and Canada, who appreciate her commitment to these principles. But those people, we ain't worried about those people. Those people, we don't need to worry about them. But when it comes to authoritarian leaders like Putin or Xi Jinping out of China, or even Netanyahu, who values strength and security over value-driven diplomacy, this approach might not have the same impact. Now, for leaders like Putin and the Prime Minister of China, human rights and democracy aren't just topics, they're points of conflict. And for Netanyahu, Harris' diplomatic priorities may feel like a shift away from the practical support Israel relies on. So that's something to really think about. How will those important, all countries are important, but those critical countries that can make or break the United States, how are those diplomatic ties going to be? Now let's go into the high stakes. This is where it really gets me. The high stakes closed door meetings with power players. So let's think about high stakes scenarios. Trade talks with China, arms control negotiations with Russia, or even security discussions with Israel. Trump already took on these kinds of meetings during his term, often without a script. You know, he didn't have a script. You're not going to be sitting behind with a 3-hour meeting with Putin with a script, a teleprompter, or pre-prepared remarks. He walked into these situations ready to negotiate in real time, relying on instinct honed over decades in business. And he's had 50 plus years making deals. He thrived on making deals. And obviously in business, he makes deals what's best for his company. But now, since we have the privilege of having him as president, he makes deals what's best for the United States, taking in that same energy. It's not business as usual. It's not, I'm going into the office today. When you look at Kamala Harris speak, there is no real enthusiasm. It's just a script. It's just a B actress, actually not even a B actress. A lot of the performances are just horrible. Now, this brings us to a provocative question. Can you imagine Kamala Harris, in a 3-hour closed-door meeting with Putin without a teleprompter? You've seen what happened at their last town hall meeting. The prompter went out and it ended on 32. And so for 5 minutes, she's like, 32 more days. 32. Come on. She didn't know, she was lost. And when someone like Putin is sitting there across the table from you and he throws something at you that you're not prepared for, you got to make a decision right there. Otherwise, Putin is going to walk out with every agreement he wants. Everything he wants signed is going to be signed. So no talking points, just her, Putin, and whatever she can bring to the table. Trump has proven he can thrive in those unpredictable, intense, closed-door scenarios, and he's comfortable with the leaders he's faced, whether it's Putin, Xi Jinping out of China, or Netanyahu. That kind of confidence keeps other leaders on edge. Now, which itself can be a powerful negotiating tool. I remember then when things were going on with Iran, and when Trump, before he became president the first time, they said, well, why were you fearful with Trump? They said, well, we don't know what he's going to do. He can do anything. They said with Obama and things like that, it's predictable. These people are predictable. We know if we do this, they're going to do that. But they say with Trump, if we do this, we don't know what the hell he's going to do. And that's how you want people to be. You want people to be on edge. You don't want to be predictable. Now, let me go back. Now, let's go on to section 4. Trump's America First versus Harris. Now, what is this coalition building approach? Here's the classic difference. Trump's America First policy focused on getting tangible results from the United States, or not from the United States, but for the United States, often through direct, even confrontational conversations. Every conversation is not going to be nice. Sometimes you got to have those stern conversations. He pushed hard for better trade terms. He insisted that allies meet their obligations and took bold steps like recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. This assertive approach made an impression on leaders like Netanyahu, who prioritize clear action and strong alliances. Now, Kamala Harris, on the other hand, like I say, we don't know. We can only go on her track record. And let me say something. In these town hall meetings, she talks about what she plans to do. And I heard one of the older gentlemen say, he said, yeah, when people tell me, he said, never trust a person who tells me what they're going to do when they had the opportunity to have already done it. Kamala's telling us all this stuff she's going to do, secure the border, tax the rich, and all this other stuff, but she had 4 years to do it and she didn't do it. So don't tell me what you're going to do if you haven't already done it and you had a chance to already do it. Now, Kamala Harris, on the other hand, would likely rely on strengthening relationships with our allies, okay, and promoting values like democracy and climate action. Okay. And while that approach would certainly appeal to leaders in Western Europe, like I say, Western Europe, they're no threat to the United States. It may have less sway with authoritarian leaders like Putin or Xi Jinping out of China. Even with Netanyahu, a leader deeply invested in security and direct action, Harris' value-driven, quote unquote, value-driven style might not resonate as strongly as Trump's did. Now, let's go on. Section 5, the final analysis, or should I say my final analysis. Who holds more influence with major leaders? So who would hold more influence on the global stage? If Trump were to return as president, I believe he'd have a stronger hand, especially with those leaders mentioned above, Putin, Xi Jinping, and Netanyahu. His relationships with these leaders are based on practical, results-driven diplomacy. And he's already shown he's comfortable negotiating with these guys directly. This experience and the mutual respect he's built with leaders like Netanyahu gives him an edge that isn't easy to replicate. Like I say, Kamala does not have these experiences. At least Biden had relationships over his 50 plus years in office, even though his cognitive decline at the end, but he still had it. Now, Kamala Harris' approach would bring a focus on coalition building, strengthening ties with Democratic allies on shared values. But when it comes to holding sway with these authoritarian type leaders, or even pragmatically like Netanyahu, Trump's proven ability to negotiate face-to-face without hesitation on his terms will give America a strategic advantage. Now, as I wind this up, in the end, both Trump and Harris bring unique strengths to the table. But when we ask who would hold more clout with authoritarian leaders or leaders who prioritize action, Trump's direct, assertive style may be exactly the edge America needs. Now, if you believe in the strength of Trump's approach, let me know. Or if you think Kamala Harris' coalition building style could bring a fresh dynamic, let's discuss that too. I'm open to being changed, my mind being changed, but like I said, I've studied this extensively. I'm not just someone going to the voting booth and voting on personality over policy. Not me, not this cat here. Even looking, it's another video, but even once we get to policies, Trump disbanded 800 resolutions under his presidency. And policies, like I said, I can't get into that, but it's another video. So thank you for listening. And remember, real leadership on the world stage matters. I hope you got a point out of this. and I hope you see a little bit more where I'm coming from. It's not just within the borders of the United States that controls the United States. It's what happens outside. I mean, this is like tariffs and things like that. Some of Trump's things that he's floating around, no income tax on tips, no income tax on Social Security, no income tax on overtime. These things are major. I mean, it's been many times in the past when I used to work a regular job that working overtime, you say, well, it's really not worth it. I'm working twice as much, but I'm only getting a little bit more money because most of it's going towards taxes. But little things like that. And also he's considering or thinking about the idea of doing away with income taxes altogether or decreasing income taxes drastically and adding tariffs, increasing tariffs. So if he increased these tariffs on products coming into the country, yes, it's higher it'll cost us as consumers more money to buy these goods and services, but now that forces American companies if they're so high to come in, Americans can make those here. Now we can go back to buying American, and that's another way to bring jobs back home, because if it's cheaper to build it here, why go someplace else and build it? Why go to Mexico? Why go to China? When it's cheaper just to get it from here. So these are a lot of things being floated around that Kamala Harris is not talking about, but Trump is talking about in real time. So I hope you got a thought from this. I love y'all and look forward to the next video. I'm going to talk about, is Trump a racist, an elitist, or a fascist? So stay tuned for that. Have a good day.